What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Money Down Pod. That is my guy, Sean White. You can follow him on Twitter at DumpsterFireFan, myself at Kayvon_sports. Welcome. Happy weekend. Beautiful sports weekend with the World Series underway, NBA, NHL, and obviously the great NFL and college football that is still really hot and heavy now as we enter week 8 of the NFL season. Okay, so, Sean, there's like we keep talking about it, man, but it's just insane what is happening this NFL year. It's one of the weirdest NFL seasons I can ever remember. I mean, the Bucs are 3-5 now. The Packers look terrible. The two quarterbacks that we're so used to dominating are just falling apart. And then you have things that are going on in New England, which is one of the weirdest circumstances I can ever remember. We're talking about a guy, and let's be clear of where we both stand on this. You've never liked Mac. You pretty much have trashed Mac, so we're usually pretty aligned on a lot of stuff, but you don't like Mac and I do. So this is one of the few disagreements that we've had on this show. And Mac comes in, wins 10 games as a rookie, was runner-up to Jamar Chase as Rookie of the Year, did everything he could possibly ask for as a rookie from Mac. This year, they start off a little bit slow. They get a new offensive coordinator that's really a defensive coach. They start off slow. He gets hurt. Bailey Zappi comes in, wins them a couple of games against really bad teams. And then you have these snobby ass Patriots fans with the audacity to chant Bailey Zappi's name after Mac Jones throw one pick, and Belichick gives in and benches Mac Jones. I mean, and Bailey Zappi comes in and looks terrible after two good drives. The Patriots fans, I hope that they're listening. They are a bunch of pricks. They're a bunch of spoiled snobs. It was disgusting what they did to this poor kid on Monday Night Football, and it was disgusting what Belichick did to this poor kid. And this is going to blow up in Belichick's face. It will, but now everybody already knew Belichick was a fraud general manager with the way he drafted, other than drafting very good cornerbacks and offensive linemen and an occasional defensive linebacker type player. But he's always been a fraud when it came to his offensive drafting. And he's going to ruin Mac Jones, and it's going to expose his drafting abilities and him as a head coach now even more, man. I've never seen a coach screw up a situation as bad as Belichick screwed up on Monday night. And he has a serious problem with their hands. Now, with all that being said, they're going to romp the Jets this weekend because that's just what they do. It's my biggest bet of the week. I'm laying a ton of money on the Pats this weekend. But in the long term, in the long run, man, it's going to affect Mac Jones and it's going to affect this Patriots team. I could not believe what I saw happen on Monday night.
Yeah, that was one of the strangest situations I've ever seen. He shouldn't have started, let's be honest.
He never should have started. And if he did start, you can't take him out after one interception.
3 series, 1 pick. And you yank him after the pick. You don't even let him go back out there and throw another one if you're going to do that. Kind of shady on Belichick's part on that, because that's what I'm going to get into is how the situation was handled. Because everyone knows how me and you view Mac differently. You view him as a high upside Matt Ryan, which we'll get into Matt Ryan actually getting benched is kind of cyclical for you on that take, how that happened. I view him more as his upside's Kirk Cousins. So if you're going to be a Kirk Cousins type, you're going to have everything perfect around you. And that's my opinion of him. You've got to have everything exactly the way it is. But your big difference for me that you said makes him more than Kirk Cousins is he has a better deep ball and he has a higher processing ability. Exactly. He can get through reads and make his offense stuff. That's fell off this year, and I believe that all has to do with coaching. That's all because we've gone to this defensive mindset coaching. And I think now that Belichick's seen some success with the coaching staff with Zappi, that he believes it might be on Mac and not his offensive staff, which I kind of feel is asinine in my opinion. It's definitely the offensive staff. When Mac had Josh McDaniels last year, they were able to scheme up game to game what they wanted to do. McDaniels didn't have the extra stuff that he has with the Raiders going on where he actually has to be the whole team's person. He just focused on that offensive game plan. And for all we know, that might be what McDaniels is good at and what he should have stayed at. But without him, Matt kind of has just a bunch of random, we're going to do this here and you're going to throw the ball here. And Matt, for what you think he is with his high processing and what I know he is, which is a smart quarterback, that's not going to work for a guy like that.
No, man.
He wants to understand the offense. He wants to understand the read he's making against the defense. And I don't think Patricia and Judge are able to even explain stuff like that to him. And it's kind of throwing him off because weirdly enough, the set plays they have for Zappy are actually working every now and then, and Zappy just goes in there and he's like, "All right, I'm a rookie. I kind of need to just throw the ball where it's going to go."
Yeah.
But you saw in that second half with the Bears when Eberflus made some adjustments,
Great
Zappy didn't look good either. So that's the issue with that whole scenario is once the other team adjusts, the Patriots have no people to do halftime adjustments. Where this is a big mistake for Belichick is you've ruined Mac Jones' confidence,
Oh
and
my
you've ruined
God.
any will he has to want to be on your team at this point. You've got the fans chanting against him, and that's a Boston sports thing. I lived up in Maine for 2 years. They're very entitled when it comes to stuff, and they kind of have a right to be for all they've won. But at the same time, they'll turn on you in a heartbeat if they think anyone new is good. That's just how it goes. So that whole Zappy chant, that probably demoralized Mac on the
It's
inside.
got to.
There's no way this dude's ever going to be all in on the Patriots again. There's no way. There's no
No.
way this dude's ever going to be able to step out on the field in a Patriots uniform and go, "Yeah, I'm leading this team. This is my team." The minute he can get out of there, I feel like Mac's going to want out of there. And I think at this point, it's probably beyond broken. Even if he's starting against the Jets, even if he wins against the Jets, this is going to linger in his head and mindset throughout the year. Any pick he throws, he could think that Zappy's over his shoulder now. And really, in reality, Zappy's a fun backup. I don't think Zappy's even Gardner Minshew right now. If you're looking at stuff like that, the Patriots are going to need another quarterback this year. The way
He's
Belichick has now handled this situation, the Patriots will need another quarterback coming soon, and it's going to take an offensive genius to get Mac's confidence back up to even come close to where I'm projecting him, especially to come close to where you're projecting him. He's going to have to go through something new with a new offensive coordinator, and it's not going to be at the Patriots, in my opinion. Belichick has royally fucked them on quarterback this year now.
absolutely, man. It's so well said. It's one of the most egotistical moves that Bill Belichick has ever made. He's so stubborn and his ego is so big that he genuinely thought, I'm not going to bring in an offensive coordinator. I don't want to bring in some guy that I don't know or that I don't like. I'm going to do it with my coaching. And they are sitting there at 3-4. They're by far the worst team talent-wise in the division. Even talent-wise, the Jets are better. Now, Belichick, the reason why I said they're going to win this weekend is because Belichick is not going to lose to Robert Saleh.
They've
He's
won
just
12
not.
straight against the Jets.
Yeah, he's just not going to lose to. I mean, but the stuff you're saying with Mac Jones, man, it's just so unfair to him that they did that. That Belichick did this. That Belichick, whatever, the benching, all that stuff. I think that's ridiculously unfair too. But the fact that they didn't bring in an offensive coordinator, the fact that they're making him learn from these defensive coaches that weren't even good defensive coaches. Like, let's get it straight. They're not even good coaches in general. And then the thing with Zappy, listen, I like Zappy coming out of college, but at the end of the day, he's 6 feet tall. He's not gonna be a great quarterback in this league, man. That's just there's just no possible way that's gonna happen. He came in, he beat a very bad Cleveland Browns team. He played well against a Packers team that we are now looking like is really bad, actually. Okay, so everyone was stunned by the Packers, him playing well against Packers. Well, everybody, Taylor Heineke played well against Packers. Everybody is playing well against the Packers. So it was just this little fling, but in the end, they are hurting the guy that they could have really had for their long-term future. And I'm with you, man. Even the players. I have a quote right here. Jacoby Myers said after the game about the fans that he was stunned and he couldn't believe that they were willing to chant Zappy's name. Ramondre Stevenson said, I thought Mac Jones was going to play the whole game. I didn't know Zappy was coming in. We plan to have our guy, Mac Jones, out there. Even the players are stunned about what Bill Belichick did, and they didn't want him to do that. They like Mac Jones, and they wanted Mac Jones out there. And Belichick is just so stubborn, man. And he got embarrassed. He got embarrassed on Monday Night Football. And you can't say that about Bill Belichick often, but he got embarrassed. And you're so right about why would Mac Jones want to stay with this team? Why would he ever want to stay with a team like that, completely tried to embarrass him, that is trying to ruin his career with what the offensive decisions that they've made? And I think that this is a story we've got to watch moving forward, no doubt about it. Do you want to say anything else? Or you want to move on to Matt Ryan?
I was just gonna say, wow, the whole player part of it too. You think the players don't see that with Belichick either? Like that's definitely a thing that's gonna be something going forward with the
No
players
doubt.
because in their head they were probably like, look at how we rose up and won these 2 games with our backup. Look, we're in a good spot right here. Wait till Matt comes back. He might be a little rusty or shaky a game or two. But we got the guy that took us to the playoffs last year. Wait till he comes back. We did our job. We won 2 games without him. If he's a little rusty the next game or so what, man? We got our guy back, and now all of a sudden it's some. It was some. You're going to play 3 series and come back, and all that. Like just weirdness on the Patriots part. That's something to monitor going forward.
No
But I
doubt.
do want to get your thoughts on this Matt Ryan situation
Yeah,
because I think what the Colts are doing is a soft tank, in my opinion. I'm
you're
going to
right.
throw mine out, and I'll let you talk the whole time because you're a big Matt Ryan guy, big Falcons guy, and that's your dude. So you were happy when he got his reset over here to Indianapolis. I think the O line is worse than anyone ever thought, and I think that's on Ballard, by the way.
Yes, you're right.
As much as Ballard doesn't get criticism, he's starting to a little bit. That's on Ballard. His highest paid O lineman's a freaking guard. Like, I know Quentin Nelson's a Hall of Famer. It's a guard, dude. Like, your tackles are terrible. They get pushed around constantly. On top of that, now Jonathan Taylor's hurt, so they can't run the ball. And Matt Ryan's a sitting duck back there.
Yeah.
And even though they won that Jacksonville game throwing 60 times, he got murdered that game.
Oh
Just
my
getting
God.
hit nonstop. And I didn't think that was sustainable with him getting hit that much. But obviously the Colts, and maybe it's Irsay at this point, thinks, let's see what we have with Edlinger. Maybe he can run around, try to be Jalen Hurts. And if he's not, let's at least get a soft tank going so we can get a quarterback next year. Because Irsay, I think, is probably sick of this whole new veteran quarterback thing they keep going on every year. So that's where the benching comes in my opinion. I don't know if Reich had a big thing to do with that, but I think a lot of this traces back to Ballard's unwillingness to trade up for a quarterback, and that's just my thought on it that no one ever wants to throw out. He learned from Veach, who traded up for Mahomes. Ballard refuses to lose a trade, and he refuses to go up for a guy in the bad circumstance that he might miss on that guy and have traded all those picks. But in the NFL, you've got to do that, and it might get him fucking fired right here if we don't watch out, because I think Irsay might be done with both of them, especially if they miss the playoffs and do this soft tank. I think Irsay might fire both of them if that's the case. But I'm going to let you get into your guy, Matt Ryan. I think this is kind of a punt on the season because I don't buy Ellinger at all. Maybe he looks a little better with the O-line out there, but he's going to make way more mistakes than Matt Ryan does, in my opinion. Even though Matt Ryan's leading the league in picks, he's just getting pressure the whole game.
No, listen, if you play fantasy, pick up whatever defense the Colts are playing because Ellinger is going to be a turnover machine. He is not good with the football. He's so irresponsible. But to the whole Colts thing and to Matt Ryan, look, I know I'm a huge Falcons fan. Matt Ryan's my favorite quarterback ever. And I think it's so unfair what the Colts have done to Matt Ryan. Listen, the Colts are a delusional franchise at this point. And Frank Wright and Chris Ballard should be fired. Irsay should fire them both because not only did they do this to Matt Ryan, but now we can sit back here officially and say they did this to Carson Wentz too, man. They are a team. Let's say it for what it is. They are a team that thinks they're way better than they are. And maybe that's on the media for hyping this team up and thinking that Ballard's so great at his job. But Sean, you've been on it for a year now, saying that that he is not as good of a drafter as we all like to say, that he's not great with some of these trades that he makes. Look at the roster. It is so much worse than what people really think is out there right now, this Colts team. And we portrayed this Colts team as a quarterback away. I think that's completely wrong. They're a quarterback, a coach, a couple offensive linemen.
Two tackles.
Yeah, because 2 tackles. I think that their defense still has a lot of holes that they need to shore up. I still think that their wide receivers aren't that great. There's a lot of it. I mean, Jonathan Taylor has taken a huge step back because that offensive line is so bad. There is so much issues with this Colts team. And people thought that Carson Wentz was the reason they didn't make the playoffs last year. Now people thought Matt Ryan was going to come be the savior, and it's all on Matt Ryan because he threw so many picks and all this stuff. Let's be honest, Sean. If it wasn't for Matt Ryan against the Chiefs going 27 of 37, 222 yards and 2 touchdowns, they don't win that game. If it wasn't for Matt Ryan going 27 of 37 for 356 yards and 2 touchdowns, 1 interceptions against the Titans at home, they don't even lose that game by 7. They lose that game by way more. If it wasn't for Matt Ryan going to Denver on a Thursday night and going 2 drives in a row to tie it and then win it at overtime, they don't win that game. And if it wasn't for Matt Ryan going 42 of 58, 389 yards and 3 touchdowns, the Colts are winless on the season right now if he doesn't do that against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are winless on the season. If Sam Ehlinger started week 1, they are winless on the season. Matt Ryan's been rough with the interceptions and all that stuff, but he has gutted out wins for them that have made them a 3-3 ball club. That's what it is, man. And maybe Irsay knows that Matt Ryan will probably gut out a couple more for them, and he doesn't want that. Maybe he really does want to take it, and that's my only thing, man. But for them to just do this to a guy like Matt Ryan that's such a pro and is a borderline Hall of Famer in most people's eyes, he's a sure thing Hall of Famer in my eyes, it's a gut punch, man. It really sucks, and it's all because these guys think that they are better than they are. Ballard thinks his roster's perfect, and it's not. And Wright thinks he's a good coach, and he's not. And they brought this guy in here to be the savior when nobody can come and save this team because the roster is much worse than what people think it is, man. It's a delusional team at this point, and people need to wake up and realize that there are so many holes all throughout this organization, and Irsay should fire everybody. And let me just also say this. If Irsay is the one that made this call to go and start Ehlinger, while I hate it for Matt Ryan, Irsay's right. Like, they shouldn't win games anymore because it's pointless. I hate it for Matt Ryan, and it's wrong the way they've done this, but they need a tank, man, because this is a delusional franchise at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It's a soft tank. It's see what we have in Ellinger. Hopefully, he's Jalen Hurts, and if he's
And
not,
he's not. And he's not.
if he's not, which I don't believe he is either, but if he's not, then at least we end up with a top 10 pick, and maybe I can get a guy in here that'll actually take a quarterback high enough to build around. I think that's what Irsay is looking at. I actually think that's the right move for the Colts, to be honest, because it's not sustainable. You're going to get Matt Ryan killed out there. Do you want to make one prediction out there? Jimmy G's probably gone from the 49ers, and Lance is still going to be shaky. I think Matt Ryan ends up with the Niners. I think that'd probably be the way he goes.
I would
think
love that.
Brings him back. He knows the offense like the back of his hand. He'd be a good mentor for Lance, because I don't think he's going to get a starting job next year the way he's been playing with his arm and everything. But at the same time, if you have him throw 15, 20 times a game, he'll still be able to dice you up, get you to the right spot. So if Lance is not the guy or Lance gets hurt again, I think Matt Ryan would be able to step right in there and pull this Jimmy G role off probably better than Jimmy G does. So that's kind of my opinion on it. I think that's where he ends up if he doesn't retire. So
I was about to say, I think he might retire, but I think you're spot on. If he doesn't retire, that's the only other place he's going.
Yeah, that's my opinion on it right there. That's where I think he's going to go. So let's move on to Brady, because I think this is going to be a big story. I'm actually glad we waited until after Thursday night to do this. You were at the NC State game last night, so we couldn't record yesterday. But this actually turned out perfect because Brady just lost his 3rd straight game and could have lost 4 straight if not for that roughing the passer penalty that was big time with Atlanta. And the Falcons and the Panthers game this weekend is for the division right now, the division lead. Imagine that. Imagine that. What's going on with the Buccaneers? They are doing horribly. I want to hear your opinion on it, and then I'll give some thoughts. But the Buccaneers are looking bad right now.
So I want to ask you and the audience this question, man. Like, can this really just be because their offensive line is that decimated? You know, I've seen Bucs fans on Twitter saying if we didn't get all these offensive line injuries, it would be better. Dude, this is terrible, man. Like, I know it maybe be a little bit better, but it can't be I think that this is a mix of things, and I hate what I'm about to say here, because I really like Todd Bowles and I wanted him to work out. But man, I think Todd Bowles is a little bit over his head here. I don't think he knows how to be a head coach. I think that he's lost. I think Brian Leftwich is lost. Speaking of, Sean, I think you might be very
Oh,
happy
yeah.
that you guys did not go that way. And I said it, man. I said when you hire someone that's under Brady, you got to be worried. That's why I was worried about Josh McDaniels. That's why I was worried about Leftwich. I mean, he looks lost. Brady looked bad last night, but up to this point, he hasn't looked that bad. It's just like, dude, it's like Mike Evans has gotten like drop-itis out of nowhere. He's dropping passes. Julio, it's like some flu has taken over this Bucs organization, and they all just like the Monstars, and they all forgot how to play football, man. It's one of the weirdest things I've seen, and I think Brady is wishing he was retired right now because I don't see them turning this around. Do you? I don't see any way they turn this around. They look terrible, man.
Yeah, I think they win this division just because it's bad.
You really do still think that they win it?
I think if anyone gets it, it's Atlanta, and I think y'all will have a tougher stretch of games coming up at some point. But honestly, it's just because Mariota's so shaky that I wouldn't pick y'all. Honestly, if you had an average, if you still had Matt Ryan, I would pick y'all.
I would too.
Like that's what's crazy about it. But here's the thing with this Brady-led thing. I think a lot of this is on Brady.
Really?
Because number one, the way you said it, the reason Arians isn't there is because of Brady.
It is.
So that's one thing. The other thing is everyone, include a lot of the Jags fans, wanted Leftwich. I personally wanted Leftwich because I thought he was going to fire Balky, and that actually Balky, for as much shit as I give him, that's a conversation for a different day. He hasn't done horrible. So us not getting Leftwich actually was a blessing in disguise because Peterson's a lot better of an offense coordinator.
It is.
Because what you're seeing here is Brady's kind of not there to do the game planning.
Exactly.
It's like Brady wanted Arians fired so he could have control of the offense, and then he just doesn't show up anymore.
You're so right.
So that's what's happening right now. So I think this is a lot of Leftwich's offense, and it's kind of scary to look at. On top of that, the O-line does play a factor. I don't want to dismiss Bucs fans saying the O-line isn't a factor. It does play a factor.
Yeah.
It's not the whole factor, though, because Brady's off a little bit this year.
Yeah.
If you watch Brady, Brady's off on his throws. A lot of throws that he usually makes, a lot of layup throws, he's usually dead on. He's off. I think that's because he's just not there mentally. He's not there physically or mentally. And I understand that, like, his personal life, a lot of that can get in the way. But the dude showed up for 20 years. That's what he's known for. He's there all the time. And it's like he's trying to do this half in, half out thing, and it's clearly not working on the field. I don't know if his timing's off with receivers. I don't know what's going on there. But I know that interior is the weakness of that O-line, and that's Brady's weakness always. But Brady always found a way to quick pass, and the team's not built for that right now. They don't have any over-the-middle threats like an Edelman or a Gronk. So he's having to throw outside the whole time, and he doesn't have the time to do it. So that's a little bit on Brady, too, for not being able to, hey, let's get us an interior guy. Let's see Scotty Miller in the middle and try to get some rapport going so I can get a quick out. That's what's really missing with this, and I think that's on the offense. Here's another thing that's being not talked about. That defense is not as good as it was.
Oh, no way.
And that completely has to do with Bowles being head coach, in my opinion. That's all because Bowles is the head coach. And weirdly enough, I actually think the loss of Mike Caldwell that went to the Jags to be the defensive coordinator is actually affecting their linebackers because Devin White looks bad right now. Yeah. Devin White's getting blocked 20 yards down the field by people. And he's usually like a Hall of Fame level player out there. He can't make tackles right now. I'm telling you, the whole juju of the organization is off right now. I think people are out of position. I think Leftwich is having to bear too much of the burden of the offensive game plan, and then they get into the game and Brady doesn't like what's going on, and they're kind of butting heads, a little off the same page. I think Bowles, just like Dennis Allen, Bowles is just one of the top 5 defensive coordinators, but cannot shoulder the load of a head coach, and now the defense is suffering. And I think they've just lost too much right now to be that team that they were. I think they can limp into the playoffs. They might can pull like a Daniel Jones, like Nick Wright was talking about, because that's like his biggest fear is that they play Daniel Jones and then Kirk Cousins and make the NFC Championship game. I don't see them making a Super Bowl this year. Even with the NFC being weak, I just don't see a team with a pass rush not being able to beat this team. I think Brady's kind of half in, half out. And I think he's going to retire after this year, after a disappointing season. We see it happen with stars a lot. He probably should have let it go last year, 1 year earlier. And this is going to be a bad last year for him because it happens all the time with the greatest you go with. You're kind of seeing it with LeBron and with his last few years. He might can salvage it on another year if they get some better players. But I'm telling you, man, it happens with these GOAT level athletes all the time. It ends up being a bad year that sends them out after they have a good one. And maybe it's just time. Maybe it's time he calls it because his mind clearly isn't there.
His mind is your point on his mentality is so wrong, and it's just so weird to see Brady not fully there, man. This is my kind of thing, though, Sean. You really think he retires? I don't think Brady can go out on this note, man. I think Brady will try and come back if things don't get turned around and he ends the season looking this bad. I don't think he's going to be able to handle that, man.
Well, the reports now are they're not divorced, and she's saying he has to retire or else. So if it's the same as marriage, maybe he retires. Because I mean, are you going to come back to this shit show? Like,
well, that's the thing, man. I thought he had to stay retired to save his marriage now, and the fact that he came back, it's just I don't.
See, that's where the conflicting personal reports are throwing everybody.
Yeah,
because nobody really knows what's going on with that unless you're like a very close friend to the family. And then how much is TMZ paying to try to find that information? Because like I don't know if you told me in my head that it was retire or save your marriage after this year.
Well, I hope
think it's a no brainer.
Yeah,
because the team isn't going to be good enough, and he doesn't have Arians there anymore.
Yeah.
If it's retire or go to the Niners or something like that, I think he goes to the Niners.
I would
play
agree.
for his hometown team and play like that. But see, that's speculation stuff again because you never know. I mean, do they want to go to Lance at that point? Like, what's going on there? Is Brady a free agent after this? I have no clue. I think he retires after this year, even if it goes bad. I think it's time. I think he probably knows that his mind isn't there. Everyone says once you start talking about retirement, you're basically retired. So I kind of feel like that's where we're at. And especially if Giselle is still in, if he just retires, I think it's a no-brainer. But if Giselle's not in, it's all off the table. He might have to get ambulanced off the field to get him off the field if that's the case.
Seriously might. And another thing about the mentality thing that I'm glad you brought up because I think it's so interesting. We just forgot, man. He also tried to maneuver his way to Miami this offseason.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things, and it makes you just wonder, does Brady care to be with the Bucs at all, man? And I think he's trying to salvage it together. And I just don't think it's going to work. And you can tell, dude, it's affecting receivers like Mike Evans. Like Mike Evans is usually his stone cold. You can go to this guy other than Gronk, and he's going to help you out. Mike Evans looks off, man. Like there's just everybody looks off right now. And it starts with Brady, and it doesn't. You just don't know if it's going to turn around. Let me just read you this, man. Like, listen, the Falcons could lose to the Panthers this week, and everything could just be chaos and a shit show. But if the Falcons do beat the Panthers, let me read you the next couple games for the Bucs. They've got the Rams, they've got the Seahawks, they've got at the Browns, which, by the way, Deshaun will be available that game. I'm pretty sure Deshaun's first game back is against the Bucs, right?
No, it's against Houston.
It's against Houston, that's right. So he won't be available that game. So they're at the Browns, then they're against the Saints, then they're at the 49ers, and then they're against the Bengals. The Falcons schedule, Panthers, Chargers, Panthers, Bears, Commanders, Steelers. It's not a very hard schedule. It's the Falcons. They could end up losing a lot, but I'm just saying, if the Falcons beat the Panthers on Sunday, your boy's going to have a lot of hope that they might win the NFC. I still worry because you're so right about Mariota and everything like that, but someone is going to win this division with maybe 6 or 7 wins, dude.
And if you're a Bucs fan and your biggest concern is O-line, what are all those good teams that you just named off have in common? Very strong pass rushes across the board, not just on the outside. Their interior rush is good. I know the Rams are struggling right now. That might be a 9-6 game at this point, the way things are going. I mean, they're struggling. But if you're talking about the interior being hurt, you got Aaron Donald rushing up the middle. That's going to be a disaster. Even the Browns with that pass rush, Myles Garrett, he stunts inside a lot as well. And their pass rush is their strongest part of the team. And everyone else you listed off, you think the Niners aren't going to be like a NASCAR track after that O-line? I think the Bucs are in trouble. I would have y'all favored, but I'm telling you, something about those Falcon stuff.
Oh no,
Uh,
you're right, man. You're right.
do you see the? I hate to do this to you, but did you see the meme that Matt Ryan got benched like 28 weeks and 3 days after
Yeah,
he got on the
it
call?
always comes
That
back to that
that's
shit,
just
man.
so strange how that happened.
It
You
just
know they weren't even
everything.
trying to do that. Like that's just so weird.
No, everything in my life comes back to 28 to 3. Everything. And that's just how it works. Let's do this one last conversation, get out here, man. Because another shocking part of this NFL season is what's going on in Green Bay. And Rodgers, man, that man I honestly credit him for finding new ways to just throw his teammates under the bus every time he possibly can. It's actually like a skill at this point, man. It's like I'm going to find a new quote where I can just shit on my players this week. And he thinks that might work. I don't. You know, the biggest surprise to me, man, because we both had some concerns about this Green Bay team. Neither of us thought that they were going to be this bad, but we both thought, okay, the offense is a little bit shaky, but they should be fine because it's Aaron Rodgers. My biggest issue is this defense sucks. The
Yeah, that's
defense should be great, and the defense is terrible. I actually think, and I wonder if you agree with me this, I actually think Rodgers is more responsible with the offense in Green Bay being bad than Brady is in Tampa. That's kind of my thought on it. I think they both have been bad, but I think Rodgers is missing throws. I think Rodgers is mentally frustrated with his teammates. I think Brady is just mentally not there. I think Rodgers doesn't want to throw these guys the ball. I literally do not think he wants to throw these guys the ball. Matt Lafleur, for some reason, will not call running plays. I think that Rodgers is so mentally annoyed that I don't know if the Packers turn it around, man. I really don't. What are your thoughts on the Packers and
yeah.
Rodgers?
I don't know. They need to trade for a veteran receiver, like something bad. And I know everybody's throwing out AJ Green. I'm like, oh my god, that's the veteran you're going to
They
go
need to
after,
trade
AJ
for
Green.
Claypool.
Like,
That's the one I've heard, and I actually think he would fit well.
yeah, if they took Claypool, I'd feel a lot better about him because that would give them a big body guy on the
Mm,
outside. They can just go and get 50-50 back shoulders that Roger throws
yeah.
so well. But man, they get AJ. AJ can play, but AJ might get hurt the next game if you
Yeah,
do
that makes
that.
no sense to me.
Here's the thing. If we're doing blame pie and we're going to go with the Bucs O line being like a 55% and then Brady
Yeah.
being like a 40, the same exact blame I give 55% to Matt Lafleur on this.
Okay,
And
wow.
that's not excusing Rodgers because Rodgers is a bigger blame than Brady on that. If Brady's 30, then Rodgers is more 40 because it's
Yeah,
mostly a two-person game going on
it's a
in
good
the
point.
Packers. LaFleur is my biggest issue because what did I say when I started and picked them to maybe go to the Super Bowl? The defense, which has been underachieving, was better. But what were they going to do on offense? I said they were going to run the ball and pound it like a 49ers team, like the offense is intended to do. And then Rodgers would have to make 4 or 5 great plays, even if the receivers aren't there, and just move the chains down to win them games. That hasn't been the case at all. They're throwing the ball everywhere. I don't understand it. And when they run, they're running it with Dylan. Let's be honest. Play your best freaking player, man. That's been an issue since Aaron Jones has been there, and I don't
Yeah.
understand it. I stopped drafting Aaron Jones in fantasy because I got sick of watching Jamal Williams get touches. Now that happens in Detroit with Swift, but at least Swift is banged up. But now we see Dylan getting all the carries. Why do you not use your best running back? You see, at least I give credit to the Jags. At least they saw ETN's playing better than Robinson, traded Robinson away. ETN's
Good
going to get
point.
all the carries. I get you need the 2 running backs in the system because you run the ball so much. Run the ball with your best player, man. What are you doing? I don't understand that at all. To be fair, he's their best weapon. He's their best player right now on offense. Him and Rodgers, it's both Aarons. You've got to put Jones back there and try to salvage the season because he's the best running back. He's hitting holes faster than Dylan. He's more decisive than Dylan right now. He's more athletic and he makes bigger plays than Dylan. And if you look at AJ Dillon, he can barely get in the end zone. And he's a
Yeah.
big dude. He's been disappointing in fantasy for me as well, but this is not a fantasy football conversation. This is a play your best players conversation. Because if you run it with Aaron Jones, it would open up those receivers a little bit more to get open. And you see Rodgers being able to make a few more throws. I think they need one more receiver out there, and they need to play their best player. That's on the floor. On the Rodgers side of it, I think this is how Rodgers thinks he's supposed to lead. It's kind of weird. I think he just thinks that if he calls out teammates in the public, they'll come up to him in the locker room and be like, "Yeah, man, you're right. I got you. We need to talk." Yeah, I need to stop making mental mistakes. What mistakes do you think I'm making? And like they'd come and have a dialogue about it. Where Rodgers is more passive aggressive like that. I think LeBron does that a little bit too. They're both kind of
LeBron does do that.
aggressive with the media. They're not going to come up to you in the locker room and say that. They want to say it in the media, and then you kind of fix it on your own or come up to them and be like, "Yeah, I think I got you on those mental mistakes, man. I'm going to do better." I don't personally like that. At least when Brady does it, he does it to their face. I kind of
Yeah.
understand that. That's just two different mentalities. But that Rodgers isn't playing at his highest level either. But I think Lafleur's got to get this offense to be the Shanahan offense that he wants to run and play his best player, and then Rodgers can fall in line. But again, they need one veteran receiver. If they get the veteran receiver, I think they can turn it around. If they stand pat or just get AJ Green or something like that, I think they're in deep trouble unless they really evaluate this offense and change it for a run first thing, playing your best player as Aaron Jones right there. That's the only shot they have, in my opinion, because that defense is putrid right now.
It's terrible. And the difference between the Packers and the Bucs is the Bucs have time on their side because of the division that they're in. The Packers don't, man. If the Vikings beat the Cardinals this week, we're talking about what? I think it becomes like what?
The Vikings would be 6-1 if they do that.
Yeah, so we're talking about like a 4-game lead at this point, this early into the season. Like
the Packers aren't beating the Bills, right? You agree with that?
Yeah, they're not beating the Bills. So think about it. They go to 3-5, and the Vikings go to 6-1, and the Vikings have the head-to-head over the Packers. That's a hole where you're going to start looking and saying, damn, we might only be able to get the wild card at this point. And the NFC, it's not great, but that's like the Packers have to figure something out ASAP. I like that you're thinking about Lafleur, and I do just want to make one more point here. I know they can't go back and change things, but this is where I really blame Rodgers, man. Davante Adams never had to leave this team. If Rodgers was not so, I like this guy, I hate the general manager. Oh, you know what? We're best friends again now. No, you know what? I hate this general manager. I think I'm going to retire. No, actually, I'm not going to retire. Davante Adams strictly said, I was tired of wondering if Rodgers was going to be there, and I had to look out for myself. And that's why he left. And then the second part was he wanted to play with his good friend, Derek Carr. If Rodgers was committed and showed that, Davante Adams probably never would have left, and this whole situation would have been different. But you're right, man. So that's where I really blame Rodgers. But you're right. Lafleur, play Aaron Jones, run the football. You got to figure things out defensively, and we'll see what happens, man. But Rodgers should be good enough, even when all this is going on, where he should be able to beat a team like the Commanders. And I just think it's showing a little bit of flaws of who Rodgers is as a quarterback. He's a great player, but he just can't get it done unless it seems like things are really in sync offensively. And I don't know if Rodgers has the patience to get things right. That's my only worry. I don't know if Rodgers has the patience to let these guys figure it out. And one other thing about calling your teammates out in public, like you're right, LeBron does it. The issue with it, man, is it really makes these receivers think about it. Like these receivers are going out on the field right now and saying, holy shit, if I mess up, this guy's going to really kill me. Like he's going to hate me. And they're thinking that way, man. It's the same thing with Mac Jones. If I mess up, my fans are going to boo me. They hate me now. That's a big issue, man. And I think you can tell it's putting a lot on these receivers. And I really just do not like, if you were going to ask me, Kayvon, bet money on which team is going to turn it around, I would be much more confident betting on the Bucs than the Packers, because I just think that I trust Brady more. And it just comes down to that.
Yeah, I agree with that completely, and the division too. So that's both the reasons right there. I think Brady could start throwing quick, shorter passes, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think that would kind of fix them. Just like I think if the Packers would start running the ball, it would fix them. I think Brady and them's more likely to change it up than Rodgers is. The other thing is I think the Bucs bye weeks earlier in the season, the Packers don't have a bye till week 14. Like they can't wait for the bye to change it up. They've got to win now. That's a bad sign for the Packers right there, because they really need that break to really kind of get their adjustments going, but it's too late in the season to do it. So they're kind of in trouble when it comes to that.
Yeah. So we got to get out of here, but real quick, one question for you. Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs. Big move?
I like it. I like it a lot. I think he's going to be what Sky Moore was supposed to be. I think Sky Moore's kind of been a little. It's taken him a little longer to adjust as a rookie than most people thought he
Yep.
would. I think Tony's going to kind of run that Tyreek Hill pattern. They're going to put Mecole kind of back to where he was, and he's going to be the poor man's Tyreek Hill. Get it to him on bubbles. He's going to break tackles. Get into him on double moves and let him go. I think he's completely healthy. They were just faking that with the New York Giants the whole time because they just were done with the relationship.
Yeah.
I like the move. Andy Reid does this all the time. He takes weird character guys and turns them into stars. That's what it's going to be. I think he'll do great there.
I like the move too. I think that if you were able to pick him up in fantasy, I think he
I
could
did.
be pretty. Yeah, I did some and some. I think he could definitely be a threat. Next question. Quick hitters here. Chase out. How big of a deal is that for the Cincinnati Bengals?
Massive, massive. If you look at the splits when T and Chase play, they play so much better. It's such a big difference having a guy that commands a double like that to get T Higgins open, and then a guy that even when he is doubled, Burrow just throws a go ball up over the top of two of them to the back shoulder. Chase is on that same mental wavelength as him. He just goes up and gets it. They became the dynamic duo, in my opinion, once Devontae left Green Bay. It's a huge deal, especially if he's out for longer than the 4 to 6 because he's getting a second opinion. That's really nervous to look at if that's the case. I think that could tank the Bengals season because I don't see them winning it without Chase up there. Chase is that big of a deal. He's one of the biggest wide receiver losses you could have, in my opinion.
Completely agree. And they were just hitting their stride, man. That's really. And then last one, Kareem Hunt. A lot of rumors to the Rams. A lot of rumors they might ship him out. Does Kareem Hunt get traded after Sunday or before the trade deadline? If so, where's your prediction to?
Kareem Hunt definitely gets traded. I'm not sure. I see the Bills kind of getting into the
I heard the
mix, which I
Bills
think
too.
kind of weird. They have a stable back there, but if that's what they want to do, I think the Rams are desperate for a running back because they are going to trade or release Cam Akers for sure.
Yeah.
I think the Rams might offer up enough for him. They were willing to give a lot for McCaffrey. I think they'll take one of those picks off the board and go for Hunt. The big one to watch, in my opinion, is Kamara to the Eagles.
Wow. And you know what's crazy about that move? When the Eagles went on their Super Bowl run a couple years ago, they brought in Chris Long, and then they made the trade for Jay Ajayi. Now they're bringing in Robert Quinn, and then they make the trade for Kareem Hunt. You see, Howie Roseman likes to do those type of things. I like that a
Oh,
lot.
no. I'm saying they're trading Kamara.
Oh, you're saying they're going to trade for for the
Oh,
Saints?
Kamara from the
Oh
Saints.
my God! But they would have to give the Saints their pick back.
I don't think they give the pick back. I think they give him like 2s and 3s. Like I think they just give like a war chest of random picks and not the first.
They better not give their pick back. I want so badly for the Saints to have a top 5 pick and not be able to use it.
Oh no, if they're giving a first back, they're giving theirs. They're
Yeah.
giving their own. That's not how it's going to work. But I'm telling you, I think that's the rumor mill going on. I'm seeing it from too many like people on the inside that like
I
Howie
saw
will not be outbid. They will get Kamara. That's who he wants. I think they're going to give up a bunch of picks. Probably not the first. Definitely not their first back. They're not giving up a top 5 for Kamara. But yeah, I think Kamara is going to end up being with the Eagles, and I think that's going to make the Eagles really, really dangerous.
Wow. If so, Dallas better pull a move or they are going to get left behind, man. That is the NFC is the Eagles to win without a doubt right now even.
I think the Eagles are looking to if we're going to have to play the Chiefs or the Bills, we're going to have to score. I think that's where they're looking at this point.
Man, I got to tell you, sometimes you can admit when you're wrong. I came on here and destroyed Howie Roseman. I got to say I was wrong. He knows what he is doing right now. There's no doubt about it. Awesome, man.
Really
Great
good.
stuff. Great show. This is the Money Down Pod. That is Sean White. You can follow him on Twitter at Dumpster Fire Fan, myself at K1_sports. Really excited about next week, guys, because next week we have so much to talk about. We're going to have to talk about all the trades that happen because the trade deadline's like the 4th, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's sometime next week.
Yeah, so we'll have to talk about the trade deadline, everything that happens in the NFL. We'll see if the Packers can do anything against the Bucs. And then for college football, we've got Tennessee, Georgia. We've got a lot of we've got LSU, Alabama. There's a lot of matchups coming up.
27 straight days of football. Maction starting up, baby. Maction.
Some action week bets. And watch out for Twitter. Me and Sean will be tweeting out our picks because we couldn't do a pick show this week. Sean's already been in the lab cooking up a parlay. So get ready for that one. He'll be tweeting that out. We'll tweet out all of our picks. Stay tuned for that. Follow us at the Money Down Pod on Twitter, at Dumpster Fire Fan, myself at Kayvon _sports. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you next week.